Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take all that research and get you the essential knowledge you need fast. Today we are really getting into the Premier League. We're looking at the Round 21 matchup on January 7th, 2026. It's Aston Villa traveling to Selhurst Park to take on Crystal Palace.
And this is just a classic mid-season clash, isn't it? You have two teams on completely different paths colliding. You've got Crystal Palace sort of stuck there in mid-table, 14th, and they are really struggling to find any kind of momentum, some real issues there.
And on the other side, Aston Villa.
Oh.
I mean, they're having maybe one of their best seasons in decades, right near the top of the table, a genuine title-challenging position.
The contrast is, it's stark.
It really is. It's more than just their league positions. It's confidence, it's tactics, it's the whole psychological state of the two clubs.
Right.
So our mission today is to figure out, does Villa's, phenomenal momentum just steamroll Palace at home?
And what do the stats tell us about whether we're likely to see a lot of goals? To really get this match, you have to start with the form. It's the one defining factor. The gap between them is just overwhelming. We can't just say Villa's on a good run. We have to look at what that kind of sustained success actually does to a team.
Right. It's not a flash in the pan. This feels like a fundamental change under Unai Emery. Their form is the whole story here.
The headline stat really tells you everything. 12 wins in their last 13 games, all competitions. That is not a lucky streak. That's the sort of consistency you see from a team that believes it can win the league. And what that lets them do, and this is the key thing for you to understand, is rotate players without that fear of dropping points. It boosts morale for the whole squad. They're not just hoping to win at Selhurst Park, they are expecting to win.
And that success is fueled by, well, just a dominant attack, isn't it? The sources are pointing to 11 goals in just their last 5 matches. That's over 2 goals a game. That's lethal. What does that efficiency tell you?
It tells you they're a high-confidence team. They're finishing their chances at an elite level. They create good chances, sure, but they are not wasteful. They're turning those half chances into goals, which means they can afford to go behind. They back themselves to just score 2 or 3 to win the game anyway. It's why they're such heavy favorites, even away from home.
Okay, so let's flip the coin and look at the polar opposite, Crystal Palace. If Villa's flying high, Palace is, well, they're feeling the pressure.
Their form is a real concern, genuinely. They're winless in their last 7 across all competitions. And when you look past just the results, you see the real problem. It's not just that they're not winning, it's how they're failing, especially at the back.
And that's the key vulnerability, isn't it? The defensive fragility is what a team like Villa is built to punish. Palace hasn't kept a clean sheet in 7 straight games. That 7-game number, that's the key stat for me.
Exactly. When we talk about systemic issues, it's a couple of things. One is just poor decision-making under pressure. They seem to panic a bit. And 2, the sheer number of goals they're conceding suggests that when they try to shift shape, teams are just exploiting the gaps. That transition defense is exactly what a high-press team like Villa lives for.
So the form gap is huge, but it gets really fascinating when we drill down into the tactics. This is Emery's specialty, right? Exploiting those specific weaknesses you just mentioned.
Emery's system at Villa is very sophisticated. It's less about just keeping the ball and more about dangerous vertical passes. They press with a lot of energy, but it's how they attack after winning the ball. Our sources kept using the phrase penetrating attacks, and that means they're targeting the weak spots.
Okay, but what does a penetrating attack actually look like on the pitch? For someone watching, how do they do that against a team that might just sit back?
Well, what's really clever is Emery's midfield setup. He often uses inverted fullbacks, which pushes players like Douglas Luiz really high up the pitch. It basically creates this box midfield that overloads the opponent. It forces the other team's defenders into bad choices. If a center back steps out, it opens up that little channel, that half space for Ollie Watkins to run into. They're not just whipping in crosses, they're trying to cut the ball back from those dangerous areas.
And that's a direct challenge to Palace's shaky defense, which is struggling with exactly that kind of communication. If Villa can do that consistently, that 7-game streak without a clean sheet, it's probably going to 8.
Which is why the focus shifts to Oliver Glasner. What does he do? His strategy is usually to absorb pressure, sit deep, stay compact, and then try to hit you on the counterattack.
Which sounds like the right idea against an aggressive pressing team. But the notes we have say that strategy has been, it's been pretty hampered lately. Why is their only real weapon failing them?
It's 2 things, really. Inconsistent players and just a lack of speed in that transition moment. Injuries haven't helped, of course, but really, the structure isn't there to turn defense into a deadly attack in a matter of seconds. If you soak up pressure for 10, 15 minutes, your breakout has to be perfect. When it isn't, you just keep soaking up pressure until, the inevitable happens. The counter is more of a hope than a plan.
And that brings us to the individual players. For Villa, you have to start with Ollie Watkins. He is just operating at such a high level right now.
He's the focal point, absolutely. But it's not just his goals, it's his movement, his intelligence. He drops deep, links the play, and then he's immediately spinning into the space that the defender just left. There's a little note in our sources that he's been training specifically on these deceptive runs to open up space for others. If he pulls those off at Selhurst Park, Villa will find those gaps we talked about. He's the engine behind that 2-1 or 3-1 win everyone expects.
So Watkins is the engine for Villa. Who is the main threat they need to worry about? For Palace, it has to be Jean-Philippe Mateta.
Mateta is so important for them. He's their main goal outlet, a big physical presence up top. He's good at holding the ball up, which they need to start any kind of counter. And he is a massive threat on set pieces. If Palace scores, there's a very good chance it's Mateta winning a physical battle in the box or finishing off one of those rare quick breaks. He's their resistance.
But the real question mark is over their creative players, isn't it? We're talking about Ismaila Sarr and Ebereki Eze. How much is their inconsistent form and fitness hurting Palace's game plan?
Oh, it's hugely critical. Those are the guys with the spark, the skill to unlock a defense. When they're on their game, Palace's counterattack can be terrifying. But this 7-game winless run tells you they haven't been delivering that spark consistently at all, and that means the whole burden falls on Mateta to not just hold up the ball, but somehow create the chance himself. That's a huge ask against Villa's defense.
So this all sets up that classic debate, history versus what's happening right now. Because if you look at the long-term head-to-head, Crystal Palace actually has a slight edge in wins. Selhurst Park has not always been a happy place for Villa.
And that history is interesting. It's a sort of psychological thing. Selhurst Park has that unique atmosphere. It's a tight pitch, and it can frustrate better teams. But we have to be clear that history does not matter more than the current reality. Villa's quality right now, their tactical clarity under Emery, they are just unequivocally the better side. Present form almost always beats history in the top flight.
Okay, let's talk about goals then. Because even with this big gap in form, everyone seems to expect goals. The head-to-head history points to games with over 2.5 goals. Why do analysts think that trend holds up when one team is struggling so much?
It's because of how Palace is struggling. They're not losing by parking the bus and grinding out 0-0 draws. They're losing by conceding 2 or 3 goals a game. And they still manage to nick a goal here and there, on the break or from a set piece. So given Villa's firepower and Palace's complete inability to keep a clean sheet, yeah, the smart money is on at least 3 goals and probably both teams scoring. Villa will break them down and Palace will get one chance and maybe take it.
So when you put it all together, the form, the tactics, Villa's box midfield, Palace's defensive issues, what's the consensus prediction from the analysts for January 7th?
The consensus is, well, it's almost unanimous. A clear Aston Villa win, or at the very least, a Villa win-draw double chance. You can find almost no one backing a Palace victory here, even at home.
Wait, hold on. If Palace's defense is really that bad conceding in 7 straight games, and Villa are on this incredible 12 out of 13 run, why isn't the prediction a blowout? Why are so many people landing on 2-1 instead of, 3-0 or 4-1? Are they just respecting Selhurst Park too much?
That's a really sharp question. And the 2-1 scoreline, which is the most common one you see, it does factor in that Selhurst Park grit, yes. But it also accounts for the risk in Villa's own system. When you press that high with that much intensity, you are always vulnerable to one direct ball over the top. And that's exactly what Mateta is there for. So the 2-1 isn't just about Villa being better. It's a prediction that respects that even a struggling Premier League team can land one counterpunch. It's dominance, but a dominance that might have to overcome a bloody nose.
So, to summarize the expert snapshot then, Aston Villa are the clear favorites. It's all about form, efficiency, and Emery's tactical organization. Palace's home crowd might make it feisty for a bit, but the mismatch is just too big. Villa should be getting the 3 points.
The whole game is that tactical battle. Villa's press versus Palace's attempt to build a defensive wall, and it just comes down to who breaks first. A Villa can recover from a mistake. Palace, based on the last month or two, really can't.
And the defining factor, we keep coming back to it, is Villa's momentum. That run of 12 wins in 13. That's not just a stat, it's a culture. They believe they can always find another gear, always score another goal.
A belief that is completely at odds with Palace, who are relying on hope. Hope that Mateta can create something out of nothing without much creative help from Sarr or Eze.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to consider before the match kicks off. We know about Palace's 7-game drought without a clean sheet, and we know about Emery's attacks designed to rip open those half spaces. So what happens if Palace's game plan just completely falls apart in the first 20 minutes? Will they be able to scramble into a deep panic defensive shell and just try to keep the score down? Or will Villa's confidence, combined with Mateta's lack of support, turn that predicted tight 2-1 victory into something much, much bigger? A scoreline that truly shows the real gap between these two clubs right now. That psychological tipping point might be the real moment that decides this match. We'll see you on the next deep dive.